So, Incredibles 2 is coming out this week, or it's already come out, depending on when you're watching this video. Depending on when it goes up. But if this is out on Sunday, chances are you've already probably seen The Incredibles, and I was going to make a video dealing with, like, Pixar movies, but I already made that video, and I'm still getting a lot of messages because I didn't pick their favorite Pixar movie, but that video's out there if you want to see that. So I decided, you know what, it's a long-awaited sequel. The Twitter question that I asked for the week was then about sequels and what the best one is. Some of you, again, you already know. Godfather, correct answer. You've all been blessed. You are good. You are clear. Others of you gave good responses. So I'm going to read through them and then talk about personally what I think makes a perfect sequel. High School Musical 2 actually got a lot of love, yeah, bet on it. That is clearly the best out of the trilogy without a doubt. I have people say the opening of High School Musical 2 is a masterpiece. Troy Bolton dancing in a golf course could make Zac Efron win an Oscar. Plus, Fabulous is iconic. It's 2018. It's still stuck in my head. Yeah, no, for real. I actually really do like High School Musical 2. I think if it comes out of the trilogy, I personally would pick High School Musical 2. That whole sequence in the kitchen when they're playing out with the kitchen utensils, better than La La Land. 22 Jump Street. It's a meta sequel that mocks the very existence of all sequels. See, 22 Jump Street, I think, does what Deadpool 2 tried to do, but better. I think that, you know, we're getting at that point where there's a lot of meta sequels, meta just movies in general, and I think 22 Jump Street did it well. I don't know if they're going to continue the trend. I know Deadpool has like 5 more movies slated out. 22 Jump Street was like, you know what? Let's just put all of the upcoming sequels in the end credits scene. Aliens, scarier, bigger, world building, deep characters with full arcs, amazing story. Aliens 2 has I do think it's better than the first one, but I love that pitch. I think I brought it up before, how pretty much the way that your boy Cameron decided to pitch it was just like, we need an Alien sequel. How are we gonna pitch it? We're gonna call it Aliens. Why would you call it Aliens? Then my boy just literally turns the S into a money sign. Bad Boys 2, it's well written and high octane, plus Will Smith. I do love Bad Boys 2. Every time I see this scene right here, I get scared. I know last week we were talking about like the worst movie scary scenarios. One of them was the Final Destination one. This goes along with that. Like, I remember seeing Final Destination very close to when Bad Boys 2 came out. So anytime that I see like cars or logs or anything, yeah, I'm driving on the next lane. Before Sunset, superior because it both brings back the characters you fell in love with the first film while expertly showing how people change and relationships progress in a healthy and realistic manner through time and space. I know a lot of people like Boyhood. I've said how I'm not like the biggest fan of Boyhood because I feel it does very much rely on a gimmick. I like the acting and everything that they do with the Before series a lot better because literally, you know, it's still the same actors, but they're good actors, and it does the same thing. They're shot like every, I don't know, 8-10 years or something like that. I think it goes sunset, sunrise, midnight, however it goes, but I think that these movies do it a lot better, and I do agree with the stuff about the sequel. I think a good sequel shouldn't just continue off of the brand, but it should continue off the characters and the emotion that they had, and these movies do a great job of that. Don't get me wrong, I love The Dark Knight. I'm gonna let you finish, but it's my favorite film of all time, but Blade Runner 2049 decided to expand on the themes of its predecessor, rather than expanding the number of action sequences like most big sequels. I know a lot of people loved Blade Runner 2049. I know I was one who has stated I saw the first season of Westworld, so it kind of like minimized that impact because Westworld does a lot of the same themes very well, better in my opinion. But that's a great point. A lot of people always see sequels as doing the exact same thing, or like trying to up it up, and then it doesn't really do it, right? Like, I still remember The Hangover 2 was the exact same carbon copy of a movie. A bunch of action movies do that, where they just throw a lot more action sequences, and it's dumb. Captain America: The Winter Soldier. It managed to build and warp a character to form this beautiful saga of time and change in one film. I know a lot of people like The Winter Soldier. I was one who came out of it the first time going like, did that man literally just drill a hole into the road? I do love how it builds off of the character of Bucky and also of Steve Rogers, how they have this friendship, maybe a little bit more, but they have this friendship, and this like starts building up on it, right? And this is the perfect one because another thing that I say about sequels, I've said this about the Planet of the Apes sequels especially, is that the third one, Captain America Civil War, really builds off of the actions that happened in this movie, right? So you watch some of the sequels and it makes this sequel even better. And a lot of times they forget that, you know, you get like a really good sequel and then the third or the fourth movie, all of the repercussions from that they just like go away. This movie does it well, even if it does fall for that sometimes, because What happened to Hydra? Speaking of Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, it delves deeper into the characters and narrows in on more pointed social commentary in line with the 68 film. It's all about parallelism between two extremes and exploring the middle ground, making it a perfect middle chapter in a trilogy. That's my favorite of the series, and I would even add to War. I know War isn't perfect, but the fact that the war wasn't ever a physical thing. It was the war inside his mind with Moses, Monkey Moses. Tough choices. Empire Strikes Back expands the story and provides one of the greatest movie twists. I love how if Empire had come out now, right? Because we did get like a middle trilogy one and people didn't like it. But if Empire came out now, people would have been quick to be like, oh, I took German and Vader meant father, so I saw that twist coming from a mile away. I'm very curious if a lot of these movies from back in the day, if they had, I don't know if vocality is a word, but if people were able to have something like the internet to be as vocal and opinionated as we are now, I am a part of that as well, if we would love those movies the same. Evil Dead 2 for sure, the best movie in the franchise. The Evil Dead is not as funny, Army of Darkness is not as creepy, it's a perfect horror comedy. I haven't seen these in the longest time. I've seen Evil Dead multiple times, but I haven't seen two of the Army of Darkness ones. I've also heard a lot of people talk about the show. I think I got canceled, I don't know, but if you guys recommend it, remember, this show ain't all about me recommending stuff. I get a lot of recommendations from you guys, which I appreciate. Hot Fuzz, not technically a sequel, but it's the second part of the Three Flavors Cornetto trilogy, a different genre from Shaun of the Dead, but better in its approach to action comedy, in my opinion. Edgar Wright's best. I feel the same way. My personal favorite is Scott Pilgrim, which I always see every time I'm recording. Scott Pilgrim is my personal favorite out of his, but just the same way that I love movies like Django and Pulp Fiction out of Tarantino, I personally think Inglourious is his best. And the same with Wright, where I feel like Hot Fuzz may not be my favorite, but I do definitely think that it's his best. And honestly, the more that I watch it, I think it's like the most rewatchable one because I always catch more jokes with it. How to Train Your Dragon 2. Everyone just keeps growing and tackling more challenges instead of the standard plot rehash, especially in it. I just love how the third one, they just gave him a beard and they're like, boom. Character growth. Kill Bill Volume 2. Although Quentin considers them one film, Volume 2 is more exciting, better cinematography, overall better. That's another point when it comes to sequels, where you kind of combine them. Oh, I'm sure a bunch of people probably also said Lord of the Rings, but when they almost feel like chapters, I know some people had also said John Wick, where they feel like chapters to a book, they don't feel like two completely separate books, then you have yourself what almost feels like the second half of a movie that you prefer over the build-up. Mad Max Fury Road, from the coloring to the centering on action to making it more understandable and dynamic, the cinematography alone makes it superior, but the story brings it to a whole other level. Feminism and social justice with clear payoffs and exciting action, it's gold. I know everyone is always against like SJWs, and SJWs literally just used to mean, words, it used to mean actually doing like social stuff justice, and now it's more like a meme and stuff, and it's what you call people who are a little overbearing. But this is one of the points where I think it does it well. Furiosa is one of my favorite characters of the past half decade. I think it's a very fantastic movie. I had binged all of them leading up to Mad Max. Mad Max still holds up if you have a big screen, but yeah, I think it's the perfect answer. And also Caleb and Cole, I know that you guys said it was your anniversary, so with my little Nespresso thing here, cheers to your anniversary. For real though, I love Rocky 2. I love The Dark Knight and Cars 2, but Rocky 2 is everything a good sequel should be. Progress the characters, does what made the first Rocky great without making it a car. I know that I'm always talking about The Godfather Part 2, right? And saying that that's the best one. I adore Rocky 2 as well. I remember when Creed was coming out and my buddies and I, we had rewatched it. And some people actually wanted to argue that Rocky 2 wasn't great, saying that Rocky 1 was better. Bro, Rocky 2 starts with the best parts of Rocky 1. All the Rocky movies, I love how they do that. Every sequel just starts off with the entire fight, not a recap, not a previously on, the entire fight sequence from the other one. So I can't wait to see Creed 2 and literally just see the last 15 minutes at the beginning of that one. Of course, Shrek 2 got mentioned. Shrek 2, the fact that the first movie was so good with not much room for improvement makes the greatness of the sequel that much more impressive. I remember somebody once told me that they liked the third or the fourth one better. It's the second one. Far, far and away, way better than the other ones. Terminator 2, the visual effects, taking the villain from the previous film and making him the hero. Also the huge character development from Sarah Connor. She was BA, also Dark Knight. I think that's one of the coolest things. Not a lot of movies do that nowadays where they literally flip something on his head, like having the Terminator be the good guy. You know, the Jason movies kind of did that, where Jason wasn't necessarily the killer in the first movie. It wasn't until the other one. So That's what makes Terminator 2 legendary. The Last Jedi. No, buddy. Now I have to dislike my own video because I mentioned this. Thor Ragnarok turned the most boring character in the MCU into one of my new favorites. Taika Waititi is God. I love Thor Ragnarok. I am going to make a video on Thor Ragnarok because those who do not like it, you're not wrong. You're just not right. Of course, I also got a bunch of people talking about The Dark Knight, a bunch of people talking about Toy Story 2, and here's actually the list of the top films that you guys have picked. Of course, all of these are fantastic. I think they're all great. And for me, what really makes a good sequel, as we talked about, was when it's able to continue carrying the characters forward, right? Where it's not just like banking off of it because they know it's a brand. Many times the movie can be its own original property, but they take like another script and try to add it into a sequel, even though it's kind of unnecessary, right? They just want to bank off of that money. But I think when you're able to develop those characters even more, if it's the environment that makes it, you continue to push that forward. As long as you're telling a story that takes advantage of the fact that you've already created this world, you can get done with the introduction and just move forward and tell something that impacts you, then you got yourself a good sequel. And that's why Sicario 2 is the best sequel of 2018. Guys for checking out this video. As always, a big shout out to the patrons. Actually, one of my patrons, they worked on this like in time almost continuation, and I was looking at it, I was like, I want to see what he did. This action sequences that he did in here were fantastic, so shout out to Kai. Definitely go check out this video. I'll have it linked down below and linked right there. And of course, a big shout out to Marcus Theaters. Every week you can go down below in the link if you're in the Chicagoland area. Got a little sponsorship with them, and I make sure that they hook it up for you guys, and you can win yourself some tickets to go see whatever the big movie is. Obviously for this video it's Incredibles, done stuff for Deadpool, Jurassic World's coming up next week, so just go follow them down below, or just follow Marcus Theaters on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I don't know if they got a Fortnite, whatever it is, just go follow them and tell them A to Z sent you, and that helps out the channel. Free way, just like when you guys comment, when you guys like, especially when you guys share the video. I appreciate it. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the sequel.